Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. On the agenda tonight, we're going back to 2017. We're going to be taking a look at Zac Brown Band, and they're going to be performing Free, and then they transition into the Mystic, and then they get back into Free by the end of the performance as well. Just to mention as well, the video that I was sent to analyze was exactly the same two tracks in terms of the performance, but it was with a very well-known YouTube channel and show, but unfortunately we have the dreaded auto-tune that's worked its way into the performance on Zac's lead vocal, even though he doesn't need auto-tune, as we're going to see in this video. So rather than get into that whole debate again, I've just got some fan shot footage here of a live performance so we can hear it as it is live. I think also the other video was in 2017, and this is the time that they were with Elektra Records, so it might have been something that they added afterwards, and it's just a blanket adding to even really talented singers just gets put on top for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, let's get these guys up on screen and see how they get on.
Travel all across this land, just me and you. We'll end up hand in hand, somewhere down on the sand, just me and you. Just as free as we'll ever be. Just as free as we'll ever be. Till the city lights dissolve into a country sky, just me and you. Lay underneath the barren moon, do all the things that lovers do, just me and you. Just as
I'm just going to jump in here. As always, the link to this is going to be in the description below, so you guys can watch it the whole way through without me interrupting. But this is such a great example of how to set a mood and give a particular feel to the performance because of the dynamic journey that we go on, and also the way that more and more instruments are added into the mix the further we go along. And a great example here, when we're into the second chorus, we just get the introduction of the snare, which adds so much more dynamically to the performance because it just ups it a level. Previously, it was just that rim shot that we're hearing throughout the verses, which just sits it in such a nice place dynamically, but then always leaves you somewhere to go. It's one of those performances that, even though it's probably been recorded on a phone, the sound quality is great because the band is just great. The intro with the fiddle, the way that we don't have any tempo until the first verse, and why that is so important is because you're so intently listening to whatever the fiddle is playing because you don't know where you're going. This is a journey that is always adapting and moving forward with a drum beat. You always know where you're going to end up because you get 4 beats warning before the end of the bar, and then you've got another bar and then another bar, and it just continues on like that. You can now follow the journey and everybody's moving at the same speed. Whereas when we don't have a drum beat, you're listening to everything so intently because you're at the front of that train. If you're imagining going on a journey, you're in that driver's seat, so you don't know what's coming up next. You can be taken in so many different directions with something that doesn't have a drum beat attributed to it. And that's exactly what we get in the intro, and it sets the mood for the whole performance. Another thing you'll notice with that fiddle intro is the application of vibrato being so controlled but slow as well. It's one of those things that sets the mood, like I mentioned, but the vibrato, the voice of the instrument, is under control the whole time, and because we're going into a slow tempo in terms of when the track actually starts up and Zac comes in with singing and his great fingerstyle playing with the hammer-ons and the pull-offs that are in there, the expression that Zac achieves through his playing, once that all comes in, the foundation has been set. It's already there because of the fiddle intro and the mood and that control that he's already laid down with the vibrato. We've got Jimmy DiMartini here on fiddle, and it's all down to him to set the mood, because if he was adding a frantic vibrato to these lead lines and was moving too quickly from note to note, it would be too anxious in terms of the overall sound. Whereas because the intro is so relaxed, once we have that cymbal swell and the fingerstyle then coming in with the guitar, it all matches. Just for those of you that might be watching this video and you've got your guitars out and you want to play along, we've just got a C and F shape here in the intro, but the important thing to remember, and you'll notice this as soon as you start playing, is that Zac is detuned down to E flat. So that's why the capo is, or the capo, depending on where you're from, is on the 2nd fret. So that's why it won't match up if you are in standard tuning. You'll have to retune your guitar down to E flat in order to match up with what Zac's playing. Of course, if you're not bothered about looking exactly like Zac while you're playing this, in standard tuning, just stick your capo on the 1st fret and you'll be good to go. Just talking about Zac's playing, because have a look out for, during this performance, the way that he emphasizes the runs and the little hammer-ons and pull-offs, but the riff elements of the rhythm that he's playing. Obviously playing fingerstyle here, singing at the same time. I always say it doubles the difficulty. You can add a little bit more difficulty in for fingerstyle because of the sequences going on with the right hand, rather than just strumming those strings in a set pattern. But that dynamic change that he gets within his playing just allows those riffs and hammer-ons and pull-offs just to pop out. So it takes more of a center stage when he wants it to as a response line to the rest of the rhythm. And then when he gets back into the rhythm, it will just sit in the background. Let's just put Zac under the spotlight for a second, because he's got that solid lead vocal that has that conversational quality about it, that talking quality, that storytelling quality, and that is something that you will find in country music across the board. The other thing vocally, which is really important to mention, is Zac Brown's range and the way that he sings for his own voice, and is something that I talk about all the time, about singers trying to sound like somebody else or trying to sing something that is out of their range and therefore won't suit their voice. So Zac is one of those guys who sings in his range, and that's why there's that connection, because he's never straining to sing one of his own songs, and that's a really important point as well. So many artists throughout the years in the studio have written songs that are impossible to sing or very difficult to sing live, which means that they can never nail it live, and they might have to get in backing singers or get somebody else to sing it all together and then sing a lower harmony line because of that composition. But here, Zac, because he's in his range, that's where you get the connection, because people can relax. If people are listening to somebody singing who is straining and not quite reaching notes, that gives an uneasy feeling to the audience. If you're singing something well within your range with confidence, that makes the audience confident in your ability, and it's so much easier to listen to. So it is something really important if you do sing or if you're learning to sing. This performance could be used as a case study, just showing bands and musicians how to arrange a track and how to piece it together dynamically as well. Because in the intro, we just have that lead voice of the fiddle, and that really does draw you in. As soon as we get into the intro with the guitar, the rhythm, the fingerstyle, we've now got that as the focal point. As soon as the vocal then comes in from Zac, it's now a vocal and a guitar, and that's really it in terms of our instrumentation and things that we're focusing on. So the track then progresses, we get that rim shot on the snare. So there's so little going on, but then when we get into that chorus, again, really subtle addition of the fiddle in the background. We also have some backing harmonies in there, so we get these extra elements that are added in for the chorus. But then when we get back into the verse, which we've just heard, you can hear that the electric guitar, which is out of shot here, just adds in an extra little bit of emphasis, a little bit of rhythm, some octaves as well, that just fade in and then go out. So it gives you another point of interest in the verse that we didn't have initially, but we're still just on the rim of that snare, so we're not all in yet. So we've already gone on a journey, but we're by no means at the top of the mountain yet. Things are just getting added in bit by bit. We've also got those extra percussive elements being added in just to help things along, which we can see in the background. And just overall as a composition, there is so much space in here that I mentioned earlier. By the way, this song, Free, was released on the Foundation album in 2008. A lot of people might see this performance as getting back to basics and just doing the basics really well. Doing the basics really well is not easy, because that means everybody would be in a band that are super tight, have got great dynamic range, even though they're not playing anything that is technically really, really demanding. It is technically demanding to play something simple really well and as a cohesive unit of 7 or 8 musicians, because you all have to link in with each other, and it is a team sport. When you are playing live with a huge band, everybody is just as important as the next, and that's why a live band is only as strong as their weakest member. Imagine if you had this performance and then when the electric guitar came in for the second verse, it was out of key and there was lots of fret buzz and it just sounded nasty. It just ruins the whole sound. So that is why everybody has to be on the ball. Zac and the guys will be transitioning into the Mystic by the end of this performance. But if you're interested as well, Van Morrison is here on the channel somewhere, so you can check him out in terms of a reference to Into the Mystic. But let's get back into this performance and we'll watch it till the end.
Just as free, free as we'll ever be, ever. mystic. Heart now hear the sailors cry. You smell the sea and you feel the sky. Let your soul and spirit fly into the mystic. When the foghorn blows, I will be coming home. When the foghorn blows, I wanna feel it. Don't have to feel it, 'cause I wanna rock your gypsy soul. Just like way back in the day. And now together we will flow out of the mystic. Travel all across this land, just being.
And there we have it. As you could tell by the end of the performance, dynamically, everything really opened up. Anyone on stage who's got an instrument is getting involved. And we could also see in the background those extra percussive elements that I mentioned, but a couple of extra crashes in there. So effectively 4 crashes going on at any one time, which will really increase that dynamic range. But then also, at the end of the song, when everything is brought back down, and we're back to where we started in terms of Zac and his guitar, and having that quiet ending to the song is almost like exhaling in terms of the crowd and the mood that you're putting across. If you were to end where everything is so dynamically open, that's where everyone will be jumping up and down and screaming at the end and applauding. But with a particular composition, you don't want that at the end. You want to bring everybody back down to suit the mood of the song, and that's exactly what we get here at the end by bringing it back down to just guitar and vocals. The great thing about the overall sound of Zac Brown Band is that it comes from a place where you can tell it's just years and years of playing and years of experience of playing together, but also with Zac getting out there busking and playing as much as possible. It's not one of those things that is manufactured and you can suddenly produce this kind of quality performance and musicianship, have this kind of ability. It's not one of those things that comes overnight. It is years and years and years of hard graft, and more often than not getting a hell of a lot of knockbacks rather than making any progress. But then eventually, once Zac and guys like Zac do get a break, they are the finished article when they hit the stage, because they've had that lifetime of experience and They've also had the hard knocks which they can put into the music. This video is such a good one to look at because it gives you the blueprint of playing live and starting with a strong composition and then the arrangement for live performance, putting the dynamic range in there as well, and the overall execution. There is so much that can be taken from this video for other musicians, other live performers, because it is all laid out there for you and it's executed so well. And Zac Brown does not need auto-tune. I wish the record labels would just leave the live performances alone. Fortunately, there's footage like this, so we can just hear it for what it is and get that live sound and the live expression without any post-editing. But thank you guys so much for suggesting Zac Brown Band for me to take a look at, and keep those suggestions coming in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think, and if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!